For June 26, 2009, this is News Undies. All the news that shouldn't be news. Well, here's a program note. Next week, in observance of the Independence Day holiday, there will be an encore presentation of News Undies. We'll be back with fresh News Undies on Friday, July 10th. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. The Nixon Presidential Library has released about 154 hours of recorded conversations from the Nixon White House, along with about 30,000 documents. The tapes reportedly cover periods in early 1973, including the conviction of the Watergate burglars. Of course, what is on the tapes is, at this point, purely academic in interest, since Nixon himself is dead, and most of his administration are either dead or on the brink of death, or at the very least, so old as to be beyond all but the most heartless of prosecutors. The newly released tapes serve only to reinforce the lessons America failed to learn about secrecy and the concentration of power, and to further fill those among us who are thoughtful and reflective with shame and regret for a period in American history that went from bad to worse to a Class D fire coupled with a sewer leak and an outbreak of Ebola. At least now, maybe we'll know Nixon's motives, and once we know those, everything will seem okay. South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford has really hit one out of the park this time. I mean, off to Argentina for 6 days to, break off, consummate an 8-year relationship with a divorced mother of 2? Really, I mean, at this point, anything he says is suspect. Sanford, an Episcopalian and staunch conservative, seems to carry the torch for the hypocrisy that a life in politics demands. Now the South Carolina Republican Party is struggling to hang on to whatever trust the people of the state still have in the party. Good luck with that. Susan Boyle! Pope Benedict XVI hasn't said anything outrageous in public in nearly a month. Some Vatican watchers wonder whether the Pope is even alive. We'll have more news after this. Hey gang, it's time for celebrity birthdays once again. I got my cake hat on. Let's rock. Saturday the 20th, Errol Flynn dead, Chet Atkins dead, and Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys still kicking. Sunday the 21st, Jean-Paul Sartre, he's dead. Maureen Stapleton, she's dead. And Joe Flaherty, who's not. Monday the 22nd, John Dillinger, dead. Prunella Scales of Fawlty Towers? Yeah. Well, and Ed Bradley, he dead. Tuesday the 23rd, Bob Fosse, dead. Clarence Thomas and Slash. There's some irony for you. Wednesday the 24th, Jeff Beck, George Pataki, Peter Weller, and Nancy Allen. Peter Weller and Nancy Allen. Well, there's RoboCop for you, right? RoboCop and Lewis. Murphy and Lewis, right? Partners. No? Okay. Thursday the 25th, George Orwell, dead. Eric Carle, Carly Simon, Jimmy Walker, and Sonia Sotomayor, who 4 weeks ago we would not be recognizing her birthday, strangely enough. How about that? Friday the 26th, Lord Kelvin, dead. Pearl S. Buck, dead. And Dave Grusin. That's it for celebrity birthdays. I'm Paul Torville, and I am done! A 20-minute video posted on YouTube by the Manifested Glory Ministries in Connecticut depicts a 16-year-old boy convulsing on the deck as senior churchmen attempt to rip homosexual demons from the boy's throat. The whacked-out worshippers then moved on to his abdomen, pushing vigorously and causing the boy to vomit repeatedly. The video has since been taken down by the church, but copies can still be found online. This is really no better than a priest raping an altar boy. There's First Amendment freedom to practice, and then there's abuse, assault, and battery. This is just plain disgusting. The Republican Party. In Austria, an unsuspecting couple was treated to a surprise visit from a block of frozen urine falling from a passing airliner. The pea puck, about a foot square, barreled through the roof of their house and shattered into pieces on the floor. They are having some trouble getting flight records from air traffic controllers in hopes of seeking compensation from the responsible airline. Iran is in the throes of popular protest on a scale not seen since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Is this democracy in action, or just bored kids with nothing better to do? Here are Pig and Sheep with their viewpoints.
It's pretty clear that Iran doesn't know how to run a democracy. Where's their Supreme Court? Street protests? You'd never see anything like that in America.
At some point over the last 40 years, the people of the United States have lost their nerve. Back in the 60s, there were people in this country willing to fight and die for democratic principles in this country. Where have they gone? Has their hunger for liberty and integrity and leadership and representative democracy been sated by iPhones and Survivor? Sure, the unrest in Iran is problematic, and it isn't pretty, but it is democracy in action.
That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. Microsoft has announced that starting today, if you buy computers with certain versions of MS Windows Vista installed, you can get a free upgrade to MS Windows 7 when it's released in October. That's great. How does this help all the poor schmucks who got railroaded into buying Vista over the last 2.5 years? Oh, it doesn't? Oh, they're on their own. Oh, good. Steve Jobs quietly received a new G3 iLiver a couple months ago. Critics charged that his wealth allowed him to leap ahead of others waiting for donors. Well, duh! Eastman Kodak Company has announced that it will be ceasing production of its oldest color film stock known as Kodachrome. As chemical photography becomes increasingly anachronistic, stories like this will elicit responses along the lines of, "Huh, really? I thought they quit making those 20 years ago." Speaking of, I thought they quit making that 20 years ago, Paul Simon could not be reached for comment. Ed McMahon has finally ended his agonizingly creeping decline into post-meta celebrity, self-parodying oblivion and destitution by dying this week. Ed McMahon's sad descent into the darkest abyss of desperation, including illnesses, injuries, surgeries, threatened foreclosure, and far too many lawsuits to count, lies in stark contrast to Johnny Carson's dignified exit from public life. So long, Ed. Health insurance. Well, it turned out that last week's story about the Belgian girl with the 56 stars tattooed on her face, yeah, I was right. She admitted that she lied. And you know what? It's no more newsworthy now. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Just 2 weeks ago, I sat here and reported to you that John Gosselin was a bad husband bound for the poorhouse. After 10 years of marriage, John and Kate Gosselin are beginning the long process of divorce. John, a thoughtless waste of skin who can't seem to regulate the flow of blood to his small head, and scheming, self-centered shrew Kate, consider the fame and attention from being not just parents of 8 children, but reality TV stars, unsought. Right. Adding insult to injury, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is investigating the show's production company for possible violations of child labor laws. You guys picked a crummy time to start shopping around for refrigerator boxes to live in. Well, that's all for this edition of News Undies. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I'll still be Paul Torville.